Hello my friends, Boomy here once again with another video for you, my Swtor brothers and sisters. How's everyone doing today in a galaxy far, far, far? They're communicating away. This is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button for all your Swtor fun, news, and sometimes guides, updates right here, right now. My friends, what would I'm actually surprised by this. But then again, I'm not, because there's been so much hubbub in the community with the release of 7.5, with videos that I've done, that Star Wars Central has done, and with just the threads unleashing on the forums, that not only did we get Keith to come out and say something, not only did we get Ashley to come out and clarify and say something, but now we have Eric Musco coming out and clarifying some things. Now, I will say, positive point here, they are communicating, they're coming out. It's great. This is what happens when a community gets together and they create such an uproar that the devs are finally forced to communicate. And that's all we want, is communication with the devs. So I'm glad they're doing it. Kudos to you, Eric Musco, Keith, and Ashley for coming out and saying stuff. Yes, a lot of the stuff has come off a bit tone deaf in some of their explanations to us, but Eric goes a bit more into clarification on the whole KOTOR cutscene stuff, to which, once we get into it, it still sounds a bit tone deaf. At the same time, they're communicating, this is what we want. This is the steps of getting the team to the table so we can actually find good compromises and good stuff like that. So for those of you who feel like these videos are salty and whatnot, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, brother, but I'm always gonna try to be positive, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. So let's get into what Eric Musco had to say. Eric Musco says, first off, as always, thank you for the feedback and discourse in the thread. I wanted to pop back in and cover a few different things that I am seeing as I have been following along with the conversation. In order, communication around KOTOR cutscenes, how are we using them, and your feedback in this thread, so let's jump in. Which is fine. And I think what is happening here is, and he's going to talk a little bit about that, they've been doing KOTOR cutscenes since 7.0. In fact, they've been doing it way before then. But it was just the jarring nature of them in 7.5 that really woke a lot of people up to what's been going on. And I think that was Swtor's biggest mistake. No one really complained too much. We were kind of annoyed with them, but we were able to shuffle them off into the corner and be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But 7.5 and the way those cutscenes were placed in the main track of the story, the main narrative track, that's what really had a lot of people saying, okay, enough is enough. He starts off with communication. There are a couple different points related to communication that I have seen in this thread that I wanted to touch on. The first is just general point around moderation or silencing discussions, which has been a thing. I've been seeing people on the forums talking about how their posts have been taken down, how apparently they get special symbols. I don't know. I'm sure if I posted on the forums, I would get a special symbol as well. This is mostly me relaying from Jackie, but I know I stated this plenty of times in the past as well. The removal of posts in this thread came entirely from one or three places. The first one, people being very unconstructive or downright awful towards each other or staff members. Disagreement is fine, personal insults or threats are not. And I want to be very clear on this as well. I've had to deal with this in Discord and stuff like that. Personal threats towards devs, death threats, doxing, never okay. Zero tolerance for that bullshit right there. That is never okay. If you do that, you're the coward and you've lost the argument. And you just make it harder for those of us who just want to see this game hit another golden age, this game to survive and just be alive. It makes it that much harder for us to be able to do that. So stop it. Discussion of moderation. You all know this. If you talk about moderation action being taken, your post gets removed. And mostly as a knock-on effect to the two others, but as a part of the cleaning up quoted conversations or references to one of the offending posts from bullet 1 or 2, sometimes numerous posts can be removed even if they themselves don't have anything wrong in them, but they are referencing ones that do. This is done to keep the conversation cleaner and on topic. He continues, one thing I did see talked about in this thread was a greater desire that we had told you, in quotes, in advance it was going to work this way. So I wanted to address that a bit more directly. The reason we didn't is that it has worked this way in some fashion for a number of game updates now. We have especially used this variety of tools throughout 7.0 era. Let me be a bit more on the nose with it if I can. When we go into a crit path planning, we take a look at the story we want to tell and our capacity to tell it across our disciplines. Note that this is in no way just means cinematics. We take everything into account across writing, cinematics, voiceover budget, world and encounter design, environment and character art, and more. Quite literally, every game update has an entirely different balance of, well, everything. From KOTOR scenes, the topic of this thread, to how many bosses appear, the rewards you can earn, etc. And as I will cover in the last section of this post, I'm not saying this is invalidated any of the feedback you are sharing on KOTOR scenes. That's all valid. All that said, I totally understand there was concern about KOTOR scenes used specifically in 7.5, and you feel we were slow to respond. Were they slow to respond? A little bit, kinda, yeah. Am I going to give them a little grace because it was only a couple weeks, and I think what happened is they saw all the responses, all the threads there, and I kind of feel like what they thought in the boardroom, in the break room, in the discussion, and on all that stuff, they thought it was going to be amazing. And sometimes I feel with Swtor, because sometimes I really do honestly believe they're stuck in this bubble, right? So this bubble, they think everything is going to work out, it's going to be amazing, they're going to love the story, they're going to love how we're going to tell it, and then when they release it, they kind of get like shocked and surprised that the community's like, what the F was that? Or a lot of people are like, well, that's not what I expected, but okay. And then they're kind of taken back by that. So they take a while, they have to commiserate, right? They had to have their committees, they had to have time to sit down and talk about how they're going to respond, how they're going to do things, or they sit down in the back corner and go like, I don't understand why they didn't like this, that's weird. Either way, it does take a little bit of time. Did it take too much time? Yeah, maybe. But hey, we're getting them to communicate now, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. He continues, how and where KOTOR scenes. If you've read the thread, you can see that there are a lot of different and sometimes opposing takes on when and if KOTOR scenes make sense. From never use a KOTOR scene in a crit path, which is kind of in the camp I'm in right now, to what is 7.5, what is in 7.5 is fine. To the scenes are fine but only use them in this way, or the scenes are fine but only use them that way. That's where things get tricky. What we are going to do, always, is try to tell the best story possible with all of our tools and resources. This includes everything I listed above, even KOTOR scenes. Sometimes you might disagree with how we use them, and that's okay. And you can and should voice that respectively and constructively so that we can continue to improve, which segues nicely into your feedback and what's next. I will say that the people over there at I almost said BioWare, Broadsword, the people at Swtor, because I don't know the people at Broadsword. I still feel like, yes, they're under Broadsword's banner, but I feel like it's just way two different entities. When they say constructive, I still feel, having dealt with them before in the past and having seen how they react to the community, our idea and definition of constructive criticism and their definition of it are two drastically different things. They have a very thin skin over there, and it's unfortunate, and I've dealt with it, I've had to deal with it before, and it's just silly. But at the same time, I agree. If you have a criticism, let it be constructive. Don't be mean, don't be like calling them names, don't be doing all that jazz, because then you're just going to shut them down. They're not going to want to talk, they're not going to listen, they're going to run off into their hole and rock back and forth looking for a safe space. He continues, alright, so with some additional context in place beyond what Keith and Ashley already stated in the beginning, the part that becomes most important to you is what we can do with all of this. Right now, I am going to take all of the feedback we've been collecting from this thread and take it back to the team to see what, if anything, we might be able to adjust. Just to hit some of the high nails of these things I have seen, not comprehensive obviously, with some general thoughts. And these are things that people have talked about on the thread. He says, my character isn't voiced in KOTOR scenes. Understood on this feedback, but this also isn't a simple change, as this is fundamentally how these scenes were designed without the PC speaking. Still, feedback heard. The UI pulls me out of the experience and immersion. This is another one that we'll discuss, as it was definitely a prominent feedback point, but I want to offer a couple of discussion points. Now, this is where I feel like he's done pretty good in this, and I'll give Eric credit for coming out and doing this. I've met Eric, he's actually a really nice guy, so don't poop on him too much. But this is kind of where the tone deafness kind of kicks in, because I think people were 100% correct, and I agree, because I am one of those people that felt this way when those KOTOR style cutscenes came in during the main story track. It totally broke immersion. The initial inspiration for these, as they were named, was obviously KOTOR, so it goes without saying, but I will point it out anyway. If we change these, there will inevitably be some folks who get upset that it no longer looks that way. His other point was, some of that pulls me out is a little intentional. Since the experience of KOTOR scenes is different, more dialogue, no PC voice, etc., we wanted to be pretty clear that when you enter one of those scenes that something is different, so you aren't expecting it to be the same. But as your feedback has noted, maybe it's too strong, or it goes back to a how and when or above. Well, here's the biggest problem, right? The biggest thing is, it's really not addressing in sense of what the community is saying. The community is saying, listen, Swtor, you can do your KOTOR cutscenes, and they'll talk about how, like, but it's nostalgia. It's a 20-year-old game. There's not much nostalgia left. If you want those type of cutscenes, go play, and this is what I've seen on the forums, and I agree, go play KOTOR 1 and 2 if you want that, party on. And if the dev team wants to put KOTOR style cutscenes to save the budget a little bit with voiceover stuff, like I said in my last video, that needs to be on side questy stuff, daily stuff, and whatnot. And they don't even need to do KOTOR cutscenes, as we talked about before. They just need to do like you have on Yavin in those dailies, right? You just go up, click on the NPC, and he just starts talking. There's no cutscene, there's no cinematic stuff at all. You're doing your thing, standing there picking your nose while that person is talking, or you're going off doing your thing while that person is talking as well. That is another thing they can do. And it kind of feels like Swtor kind of like backed themselves in a corner with this one, thinking we're just going to do this, they won't notice. But then we noticed, and now they're like, oh crap, they noticed. This is the best compromise they can do. This is how I think they should solve this thing. Do your cinematic cutscenes and your voiceover work and all that jazz in the main crit story path. That's where it should be. You want to do your KOTOR style cutscenes? Like I said, do it on your side projects or your side quests, and do it on your dailies. There. That's where it is. And if you want to do those KOTOR cutscenes, update them to make them feel a bit more modern, or put it in the UI or in the options to where you can get rid of that black part that's down there, and people are just like, we don't like that part's stupid, stop it. I kind of feel like they're easy in a sense of, we're giving you a path, Swtor, of how to come to a great compromise with us, but at the same time, I get it, there's dev time and all that jazz down there, so I get that part, and I think we should be patient with that part as well. And he concludes with, okay, I know I typed a lot of words, as I tend to do in these posts, so thank you. If you made it this far, and always, thank you for your feedback, so keep it coming. I wanted you to know that we've already been reading through this thread and having discussions internally, and there are more to come. As always, as soon as we have more info to share on this front, we will, Eric. So I think what we need to take from a lot of this is, one, they're communicating more. And that is great to see. It's kind of working, right? These videos that I'm doing, that Star Wars Central's doing, the people on the forums and all the threads and everything that's saying there, we are forcing the devs to come to the table, and we're trying to tell them, hey, what you're doing, some of it, yeah, it's okay, we're okay with. But it needs to be fixed, because this is a story-driven game, and they started this game out with the whole cinematic cutscene stuff, and that's what draws a lot of people in, because the majority of players in this game do this for the PvE story content. They're not going out there running tons of operations. They're not going out there doing ranked PvP. Well, no one really is anymore, honestly, RIP. But they're not really doing that. That is a very small segment of the community. The vast majority of the community is doing this game for story. And that's a great thing. And they need to focus on that. Not saying they don't need to focus on the end game stuff, the group player stuff. I think they really need to focus on that too. But what they have found out with 7.5, they went a bit too heavy on the KOTOR cutscenes, and they relying on them more and more. And we've seen that as the updates have come since 6.0 and 7.0, they're relying on them so much more that it became so jarring and so immersive breaking in 7.5 that a lot of people in the community finally said, well, enough is enough, guys. You need to stop, or you need to come to a compromise and redo it. I'm glad Eric Musco came out and said this thing. I'm glad they're communicating more on this. Are they going to hear our feedback? Are they actually going to take it to heart and change some things? I truly do hope so. However, there is a part of me that goes, they haven't in the past. They just continue doing their thing, and then they get shocked and surprised why the community's all up in uproar and pissed off by everything. So hopefully they will learn their lesson. I honestly, with the future of this game, Swtor is at a point where it needs to start listening to its community, and we need to start coming to the table, finding compromises here and there. They need to be more transparent, and I'm glad they've been as transparent as they have been. But we are at a point in this game to where if they don't start changing course for the game and start moving the ship into a better direction, this game is just going to die. People aren't playing this game for KOTOR cutscenes. It's nostalgic, yes, but nostalgia will only take you so far. That is a thing that is a surface level band-aid for what's the problem. Listen, I'm going to be doing a video soon about how I think Swtor should do things, how they should fix things, how I think this game, with these fixes that I'll lay out for all of you, will put this game into probably another golden era for Star Wars: The Old Republic. That's a video I'm working on. It'll come out someday soon, hopefully, maybe, when I have time. Anyways, my friends, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on all this. I know you guys have great thoughts. I love seeing them. And some people have salty thoughts, and party on. Thank you for putting a comment there, because that helps the algorithm out quite a bit. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, the bell notification button for when I do random live streams. But also it's important, because the more comments, the more likes, and obviously the more people who subscribe to this channel, the more the algorithm likes us, and the more we get this stuff out into the thing where they cannot dismiss it. You guys have done a great job, and I thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, become part of the family here at Boomynation, the freak show YouTube, the black sheep of gaming. And as always, my friends, remember to be kind, it's about community, and don't forget to spay and neuter your Wookiees. We'll see you later, my friends. Good day.